Unfiltered, where the ultimate fandom meets the gridiron. I'm FDN Insider Joel Norris, along with our FDN Insider and AFC West Insider, Matt Williams. Guys, today we are discussing on the gridiron our first ever division series. We're going to take a look at each division over the coming weeks, heading into the 2025 season. We're going to kick it off with the AFC West. We're going to also talk about the year of the running back and the time of the running back. Which running backs can break out into the 2025 season. We're also going to ask a very fun fan question with start, bench, and cut. Travis Kelce, Tony Gonzalez, and Rob Gronkowski. We're going to dive deep into a bunch of things here on Gridiron Unfiltered today, where the ultimate fandom meets the gridiron. Fandom Nation, YouTube, X, Instagram, at Fandom Nation. Follow and subscribe on all platforms. Matt, what's up, man? How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Thanks for having me.
Dude, I'm where we've been talking about you getting on Gridiron Unfiltered for a long time, so I'm glad that we're making it happen. And you are proficient in the AFC West, and you know a lot about what's going on out in that division. And we're going to discuss, with our kicking off our first ever division series, a look inside the AFC West heading into the 2025 season. And as we dive deep in to this division, it's kind of loaded. I'm not going to lie. It's loaded, especially with, Broncos and the Chiefs being the forefront. But you can't really count out what's happening with the Chargers. The Raiders are still starting to build up now with the addition of Pete Carroll coming into Las Vegas. So I'll start with you. Give us a breakdown in your eyes of the AFC West, and then we'll just follow up from there.
Yeah, so I think this is probably, they're getting back to, in like the early 2000s, late 90s, the AFC West is probably the toughest, if not one of the toughest divisions to go up against. And they're getting back to that. And it starts with the coaching. Just look at, between the four head coaches, this is what you have. This is, the acolytes that you have with the four head coaches. You have 11 Super Bowl appearances, 5 Super Bowl wins. And if you go to their collegiate careers, 3 national titles. So, you have, a lot of winning going on there. That starts at the front office. So this division is about to start making strides forward to be one of the tougher divisions, where if you see them on your schedule, you're like, oh man, we got a show, so it's going to be fun to watch. And you have a lot of young talent, and on both sides of the ball. You have Bo Nix, who's emerging. He could have potential to become one of the greats, if he starts building up on his game and making some improvement, tweaks and peaks here to his game. Pat Mahomes is Pat Mahomes. The guy, he's resilient and he puts the team on his back no matter what. He never quits. Justin Herbert, and I already said it before, like if he just stays healthy, he's a dangerous man. He's so methodical picking apart zone defenses. And I think, Aiden O'Connell may not be a franchise QB, but you have a Ryan Fitzpatrick on your hands where he is a good bridge QB and he can mentor those younger guys.
Absolutely. And I'm glad that you mentioned the coaching and the quarterbacks, because the coaching is, unbelievable. You got guys like Jim Harbaugh, after his first season going in for the Chargers. Now he's entering his second year, coming off the heels in 2023 with a national championship. We can get into that for a college segment or two. But then you have Andy Reid. There's nothing really to say about Andy Reid. He's the best head coach in the NFL right now currently. He's got a lot of rings. He's the winningest coach in the league right now, currently active. You have Sean Payton, who in Denver is, Super Bowl champion with the Saints, but he's honestly turning everything around in Denver right now. Adding Bo Nix, who, a lot of people thought, is he the weakest one out of the class? But he has turned out to be probably one of the strongest rookies out of that class, and finished, I think he was the top 3 in Rookie of the Year for Offensive Rookie of the Year in the NFL. You got a lot of guys in there, and then obviously you mentioned Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes, he is the most dynamic quarterback in the league, best quarterback in the National Football League. But then the Raiders QB situation is interesting to me when you look in terms of Aiden O'Connell. Yeah, he's a good bridge quarterback, but you also think, that with Pete Carroll, the hire going into Las Vegas, you wonder who is he going to actually bring in as a quarterback for the Raiders. Obviously, the Matthew Stafford thing didn't work out. He's going back to the Rams. You look at, guys like in the veteran market, Kirk Cousins, Aaron Rodgers, Sam Darnold even, right? You got a lot of guys that you can look at there, but you can also think about, who you could draft. Maybe in this draft, you trade up, or you could actually wait till next year. You never know, right? So it's the quarterback situation for the Raiders is interesting to me, to see what Pete Carroll's going to do. The Raiders, out of all 4 teams, I don't know if you have something to say about this. To me, the Raiders situation is the most interesting because they're the most unknown, especially with a new coach. Who's going to lead their quarterback? I mean, you got some talent with like Jacoby Myers and Brock Bowers, tight end, Zamir Wyatt, running back, but you also need more depth on the O-line. You need more talent on the receiving end as well to back up Bowers and a Jacoby Myers. It's an unknown, right? You want to know what's going to happen and what pieces you can bring into the Raiders. So, in your estimate, what do you think the Raiders need, especially in the AFC West?
While other teams have a hill to climb, the Raiders have a mountain to climb. But they already got that first step. Again, I always said it. I said it a couple of years ago when I first started my Instagram page. The Raiders needed a head coach and a quarterback they can get behind. They had that with, I believe, Rich Bisaccia. When he took over for John Gruden, they had that with him. He went 7-5, leads the Raiders with Derek Carr to the playoffs, and he had the locker room. The locker room was behind him. Like, this is our guy. Unfortunately, he didn't get the coaching job. And then Josh McDaniels comes in, and that team was just in disarray once Josh McDaniels coming. As a Broncos fan, I know all the Josh McDaniels names. Totally get it. But so when you look at it like this, in the draft with the QBs there, Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward, who was it, Jalen Milrose, am I saying his name? Jalen Milrose. So, you have these, and none of them are really like breaking the mold. None of them are like kind of like stick out to me. Doesn't mean that they're not talented and I'm not taking away their talent, but I don't think that any of these guys are ready to lead a team just yet. You mentioned some of the older guys, Matt Stafford, Russell Wilson, possibly coming in with Pete Carroll. But one name that got brought up today, Zach Wilson, is in free agency. And, the last time Pete Carroll worked with Wilson, he went to 2 Super Bowls. So Zach Wilson is, because now he gets to a point, he's in the same situation as Sean Payton was when he took over Denver. The team is in disarray. You didn't really have a quarterback that the team was behind. It's just a mess. You need a whole lot of pieces. So why not bring in Zach Wilson? Because now you got to start thinking about your future. You bring in younger talent. Zach Wilson, I think, needed that change of scenery. And look how he is in Denver versus his personality in New York and his personality in Denver. He hangs out with the guys. He mentors. They push each other, and he wasn't really doing that in New York. He's doing that in Denver. And I think Pete Carroll will promote that culture as well. So if you bring in Zach Wilson, give Aiden O'Connell something to compete with, sure, maybe draft a QB and give a third QB in there to compete with. But I think taking Zach Wilson in there would give them a little bit more of a competitive edge and fits in Pete Carroll's style of offense. They also need a running back. Sincere McCormick did a good job. He filled in for Zamir White when he got hurt, but then he got hurt himself. And it's just been riddled with injuries at running back. So they need a running back. They need receivers. Jacoby Myers, yeah, he had 1,000 yards this season, but he's the only receiver that they have. So you just have Jacoby Myers, and then they hit a home run with Brock Bowers. I mean, and Brock Bowers, if he could stay healthy, that man's going to go far. There's no question about it. But you need someone to help take the pressure off of Brock, because it can't just be Brock Bowers. So you got to get some receivers in there. Maybe another tight end to kind of like, blocking or like those short intermediate routes, short yard situation, or your red zone offense. But you need that. And then on the defensive side of the ball, they're lacking in depth in linebackers. The Max Crosby situation, what's going to happen with him? And then they need help at safety too. Jack Jones is a good corner, but that's it. It's one person at each position, but you need more than that. It's not just one person. You need multiple people. And they don't have to be prolific playmakers, but they need to be someone that can like go in there and ball out and at least make a difference.
Absolutely. I couldn't even say it better myself. You hit the nail on the head with everything. The Raiders are a very interesting case. Another interesting case in the AFC West is if you break down the Broncos, what they are doing, Bo Nix, all the pieces are really there. You just got to add more depth. And I think you just got to add more depth. Like, you got Sean Payton. He's a Super Bowl head coach. He's a proven winner. He's won so many years with the Saints. I just think that the Broncos right now, to me, when it comes to, are really second right now in the AFC West, and could eventually, if they work towards it, could reach that mountaintop. They're the closest right now because of how well they are stacked. If there's any insight on you got for that, I just think the Broncos right now are the closest when in the AFC West.
Yeah, I have to agree with you, not being biased again, because I am a Broncos fan, so I don't want to be biased. But yeah, with Bo Nix, everyone was skeptical, but only like I guess you can say like there was a select few that were like really like this guy's got it, and and in the qualities that he has, like because you can see a little bit of Drew Brees in him as far as like he's a gunslinger, like he just sits in the pocket and he'll let it go. Perfect point, case in point, that Bengals game. Look at the throws he made to Marvin Mims. And then the confidence building that he had In weeks 1 through 4, he would not touch the middle of the field. He was very nervous. You can tell he was like, and it was just like, he's a rookie. I get it. As the weeks went on, he started hitting those darts in the middle of the field. And the touchdowns to Marvin Mims against the Bengals, against that 93-yard dot on the Browns in double coverage. Week 1 through 4, Bo Nix isn't even going to make that throw. He's going to check it down. So you can see like his confidence goes up. And as his confidence built up, their play built up. The average yards a game, the points a game. Everyone's just getting behind this guy. So yeah, if you can give him some more weapons, Courtney Sutton, yeah, I like him, but he's a possession receiver. If you can find that prolific receiver to complement him, this team's going to go far. If you can find a running back that has good vision, can find those running lanes, and has that explosiveness down the field and breaks the tackles, you're going to go far. If you get a tight end, that's another position of need. Their tight end group started stepping up in the back half of the season, but they don't really have a tight end that's like, man, we got to prepare for this guy. But if you could find that tight end group, that tight end that sticks out and can take pressure off of your receivers, that can block, that can pass protect, open up the run lanes. I mean, this team is going to be dangerous, and I think they are. I think they show like, hey, we may be a new team, but we're here to compete. We're here to play. And that, those young and hungry teams like Sean Payton mentioned, those are the most dangerous teams. Those are the teams that sneak up on you because no one expects you to come out the gate swinging. Everyone thought this was going to be a trial. Okay, it's just a trial and error. They're not going to win more than 3 games. They're just going to see what works, and they ended up making the playoffs. So I think they made a statement last year. I think they're going to make a bigger statement this year.
Absolutely. And the thing is, with the score being of the Bills and Broncos game, I even said it. I said it on my Pigskin account. I said that, look, while the score of the game was a blowout, quote unquote, it necessarily at first wasn't a blowout because the Denver Broncos came out, immediately scored a touchdown, opening drive within like 3 plays. So it was like they were ready to go. And you look at the Bills and you're like, okay, that's the Bills, but at the same time, they're more experienced. But at the same time, you're thinking, I wouldn't count out this Broncos team. They showed a lot. So,
and that was a game too, because I did I broke down pregame breakdown on my Instagram page as well, and I said this is a winnable game if Denver can keep Josh Allen in the pocket and they can contain James Cook. The corners match up well with their receivers. If you can contain Cook and Allen, this is a winnable game. And again, like you said, first 3 plays. Bo Nix, it's that bomb to Troy Franklin. And again, that's confidence. Trusting your arm, trusting your receiver. Troy Franklin had an up and down year, but he didn't give up on his former teammate, the Oregon Duck. Didn't give up on him. Didn't I'm not giving the ball. He trusted his player to go up and make the play. He trusted himself. And look what happened. They were first on the board. We all knew they were going to lose the game, but they put up a fight. They went in there. They sacked Josh Allen twice. Josh Allen is a hard quarterback to bring down just because of his size and his mobility. He's a slippery QB for his size. He's hard to bring down. They sacked him twice. I mean, they put up a fight. They did the best they could, and you know what? I'm not even disappointed in them.
Absolutely. It's interesting to see what the Broncos are going to do in 2025, especially with how they're built and how their team is stacking up. Interesting case before we move on to the defending AFC West champions. Let's talk about the interesting case. That's the Chargers. And the Chargers really ended their season on a disappointing note. I mean, let's be honest, that game was rough. Against the Texans. But when you think about it, and this is just my personal thoughts, I don't really get the hate on Justin Herbert right now. I don't. I think that Justin Herbert is a top 10 quarterback in the league by the way he plays. He just needs more help, more players when it comes to receivers besides just like McConkey. I'm not really sold on Quentin Johnson. I think they need more veteran presence. I think that Will Dissly's a good secondary tight end, but he's not a good starting tight end. You're adding more depth to the O-line, which is good. You build it around Joe Alt, which was a good pick. I'm not going to say that's not a very bad. Last year, good pick. Joe Alt's good. You build that O-line around him. But I think they need a good running back, rotating back if they do re-sign J.K. Dobbins. If they do, get a good rotating back in there. You get some veteran help around Lyle McConkey and Justin Herbert, and then your offense is good. They're going to bring back Khalil Mack. They need another edge rusher. I think Joey Bosa's out the door, it seems like. They need more help on the defensive side of things when it comes to defensive line, at least. But the secondary is good. Linebackers are still up and coming, and they're good. I just think that with how it ended, I think they just need more help. And then eventually Justin Herbert's going to get used to that playoff presence. He hadn't been there much. He's been there once with a coach that's not been the best, right? So I just think that you just add more, right? You just add more help around him. And as they get to the playoffs more and more and more, he's going to eventually break out. So what are your thoughts on the Chargers heading into the 2025 season?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm with you there. I don't get the hate on Justin Herbert. And like I said earlier on, Justin Herbert, and before I even started the page, if he could stay healthy, this was his first full season since his rookie year, I believe. If he could stay healthy, he's a dangerous man. You cannot underestimate him because he can do he can run, he can throw, and he's so good and methodical at picking apart a defense. Yes, it was unfortunate against the Texans. It was just a bad day. But again, this is a Chargers team that hasn't been in the playoffs in 4 years. This is all new to them. And this is a team, other than Justin Herbert, none of them have ever been to the playoffs before. So none of them had any playoff experience. And then, part of the problem, in my opinion, part of the thing with the Chargers is their consistency. They either had a very good first half and then they were gone, they were just dismantled by the second, or they started off slow and then by the second half, they started, clawing their way back in. By that point, though, they were already too far gone to get their way back in. So it's consistency. And they really relied on Justin Herbert and J.K. Dobbins. And, I'm not going to forget Ladd McConkey as well, but we'll get to him in a second. But here's the thing. Here's a stat. The Chargers, when they lost J.K. Dobbins to the Ravens in the second half, after that, the Chargers record was 1-4 without J.K. Dobbins. They were 1-4 without him. It was Gus Edwards and Kamani Vidal just couldn't get it done. They weren't explosive. They weren't doing anything. So they became a one-sided offense. And when you become a one-sided offense, especially when your only weapon is Ladd McConkey, defenses can hone in on that. I think Stone Street did a good job coming in. He did what he could, and he started working his way up through the ranks, but he wasn't consistent. Quentin Johnson is light years ahead of where he was last season. But again, too many drops, too inconsistent. Wasn't getting separation. And again, it's defenses pick up on these things. This guy I'm not worried about. I'm worried about Ladd McConkey because he's another one. He's basically a skinny Travis Kelce. He finds those open spaces and he waits for Herbert to get on the ball. He knows what he's doing. His route running is on par with Cooper Kupp, who, Super Bowl MVP, Offensive Player of the Year. And I think the Chargers found themselves a Cooper Kupp. Hopefully he doesn't have the injury list as Cooper Kupp, but I think they hit a home run with Ladd McConkey. And if you can find that running back who's consistent and can stay healthy, and again, I think they should resign J.K. Dobbins. Even when he gets hurt, he comes back and it's like he never got hurt at all. He came back from the ACL repair. He came back from an Achilles tear, I think. And again, and assuming he never got hurt, he would have rushed over 1,000 yards. So if you could find that running back, if you're going to release Dobbins and let him go in free agency, if you could find that running back that's consistent and explosive, so your offense isn't one-dimensional, that's a good offense because Herbert can lead an offense. You give him anyone, he can lead that offense. Defensive side of the ball, I think just bolster your defensive plan. The corners are young, both rookies. Both of them were rookies, I think, and they came in. Cam Hart did well. You have Durian James that leads that secondary. And Durian James is just a monster. Khalil Mack, more than likely going to resign him. But if you put up your front four, if you bolster that up, and because one of the things they struggled with was getting pressure on the QB. You have T.R. Tart, he was never in between. He was either on fire or he was ice cold. It was a song of fire and ice to them. So you bolster up that front floor, and your defense, the Chargers defense is going to be scary.
Yeah, absolutely. And you hit the nail on the head. It's going to be interesting to see what the Chargers do heading into 2025. And quickly, before we kind of get ready to, go to our next segment with the running backs. But real quick, let's touch on the Chiefs and who is the best team in the AFC West that can stop really the Chiefs heading in and get to 2025. I think that the Chiefs, coming off of that Super Bowl loss, that hurt. I mean, they grinded it out trying to get a 3-peat. It hurt. I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, that was a huge loss for them. I think that they did good, but I don't know. It was just something about how they're doing. It was mainly, to me, their defense was just so dynamic with Steve Spagnuolo leading the charge as DC. But I just think that their offense is good, but it was mainly the hinges of their defense that got them a lot of wins. I want to see what they could do with Rashee Rice back. I want to see what they could do with Pacheco fully healthy. I want to see with Xavier Worthy in his second year on offense. I want to see how well they do there. It's going to be very interesting. And then you got Travis Kelce coming back. And then I see if that offensive line is bolstered up a little bit. I'm curious to see what they do in 2025. The team that I think that could probably step up to them right now closer than anybody is Denver. But I would not, count out LA. I wouldn't count out Los Angeles with the Chargers. I think that they are a wild card for it. The Raiders just got, like you said, but a bit of a mountain decline. But I think the Broncos are the second best team right now, the best team at it right now to kind of overthrow the Chiefs currently, even though I favor the Chiefs heading into this year so far. But, we'll conclude it with you. What do you think about the Chiefs and who is the best team that can beat them in the West?
Yeah, the Chiefs' offensive line, it's just unfortunate for them. They took on a lot of injuries, and then they brought in, I believe, Joe Tooney, and, to kind of help him out, but he got hurt, so it was just nothing but injuries on that offensive line. And interesting stat, a season ago, when they beat the Niners in the Super Bowl, the Chiefs had only given up 28 sacks. This year, they gave up 41, so that's a huge jump, So it starts with their offensive line. Got to figure out, that offense, whether you bring in some free agent players, there's a lot of offensive linemen going into the draft, big guys too, big Georgia boys going into the draft, bolstering up that interior line. Isaiah Pacheco, I think it was just hard for him to, he got hurt in week 2 with the fibula fracture, and it was just hard for him to come back from that. So it'll be interesting to see him going into this season fully healthy. But that was another thing too, kind of relying solely on Kareem Hunt. They have great receiving core. Even D-Hop, he's still got a couple of years left in him. And again, Pat Mahomes is Pat Mahomes. Travis Kelce, on the other hand, I think he lost so much focus this year. He just didn't look like he was that into it. And I think it's his off-season extracurricular activities. I know they talked about it a little bit on their show, New Heights. Tom Brady had made the comment, if Travis Kelce had focused on the Super Bowl rather than his off-field activities with Taylor Swift or whatever else he's doing, the TV show he's in now, they probably would have won. But I get it, because he just did not seem focused. And we've all seen when Travis Kelce is focused and his mind is only on football, they're going to go far. But in the Super Bowl we saw, he just looked like he gave up on some plays. There was times where normally when Pat Mahomes is flushed out of the pocket, he's running with him, he's looking for that open space, for Pat to find him, and he just kind of gave up, and that's not very Kelce-like. So hopefully this season he kind of regains that focus back and gets back to football and leaves the the off-field activities off-field. When it's football time, it's football time. When you're on your own, be on your own, but I need you focused on the game. Their secondary definitely took a hit when they lost L'Jarius Sneed, and it showed. They were the 22nd ranked secondary in the league. And one of the things the Eagles were able to expose, and again, I'm going back to Tom Brady here because they were talking about, they had asked him about how did you prepare for the Chiefs when you played them in the Super Bowl? And he said, I had studied the Chiefs so much every day up until the Super Bowl that I knew exactly what coverages they were in based on their formation. I knew every player's role on that defense, or on the defense. I knew where Tyrone Matthew was going to be. I knew where Chris Jones was going to be. I knew where everyone was going to be. I knew what their job was, and it was so easy for me to plan against it. And that's what the Eagles did on defense with Vic Fangio. They knew exactly every formation Andy Reid was going to throw at them, and the Chiefs had no answer. They just did not have an answer. You saw Pat Mahomes kind of get flustered because, at what point, I don't know what to do. Nobody's getting open. They're prepared for it. I don't know what to do. So, just long story short, I think the Broncos are going to take that same approach. And I think the Broncos are going to key in on what the Eagles do because Sean Payton is very good. He's very observant. He sees what other teams do against his opponents, find out what worked best, and then he applies that to his team. He takes parts of them and he applies it to his own methods. So I think the Broncos, again, you can't rule out the Chargers. I think they may split the series for the years to come, but I think the Broncos have the best chance of, dethroning the Chiefs here.
Yeah, that's a good. I couldn't say it better myself. That's a good point. I think that they have probably the best shot right now, and you just really can't count out the Chargers in that division. Guys, if you are a fan of any of these teams, Chargers, Raiders, Broncos, Chiefs, click the link down below. Get your merch on, your Fandom on. Click the link below in the description of this YouTube video. And keep following us and comment on who has the best chance to overthrow the Chiefs, but who, and your own thoughts on the AFC West heading into 2025 on YouTube, X, and Instagram, at FanDayNation. Subscribe and follow on all platforms. Let's quickly jump into the running backs before we conclude our episode with our fan question. We've got a few minutes here, but the time of the running back, it's just turning into a running back league again. It was a quarterback league for so long, but this past season, it's just been running back. There's so many good running backs, especially with, when you had Derrick Henry last year and Saquon Barkley with 3,000 total rushing yards all the season, including playoffs. It's unbelievable. And then you had Josh Jacobs and Aaron Jones and Joe Mixon even, guys like that. Heading into 2025, who are your running backs heading into 2025 that could break out? I'll give you mine, and then we can conclude with yours. I think Saquon, Henry, Derrick Henry, Joe Mixon, Josh Jacobs, Aaron Jones, all those guys are going to do great. I think for this year, heading in, Bijan Robinson for the Falcons, I think he's due for a breakout year. I think he's entering his third year. I think if you just keep feeding him, he's going to pop up more yards than we can even count. He did at Texas for a long time. I really think that if you look at this running back class with going into the draft, I mean, you got Ashton Jeanty, obviously, a workhorse animal. Got Amarian Hampton from North Carolina. You got Cam Scattergood from Arizona State, Dylan Sampson from Tennessee. Guys like that could have a breakout year in their rookie year. And I want to also see what Joe Mixon can do from Houston. I think Joe Mixon has got the tools to just have a breakout year like he did with Cincinnati, but even more so with Houston. I think that was a really good pickup that Houston got, and they kind of stole Joe Mixon from Houston, from Cincinnati, obviously. So I think that Houston got a really good acquisition for Joe Mixon. So those are my running backs that I can think of, but to conclude with you for the segment, who do you think could break out at the running back position heading into 2025?
So mine is a little bit of a sleeper, and he gets overshadowed because of the offense he's in. It's going to go to Cincinnati, and it's going to be Chase Brown. Again, you don't think of Chase Brown because, one, Cincinnati had the fourth worst rushing offense in the league. And then when you think of the Cincinnati Bengals, you think Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. So you don't even think about the running backs. But check this out. When weeks 1 through 8, and so what was it? Zach Moss is the running back, right? Weeks 1 through 8, the Bengals were 13th in average yards per play at 5.7. They were averaging 23 points a game, and that was 12th in the league. And by the end of week 8, they were 3-5. Weeks 9 through 17, Zach Moss gets hurt in practice, IR, out for the season. Chase Brown takes over. They were 6th in total yards per play at 6, 30 points a game. They were 3rd in the league in points per game at 30.5, and they finished with a 6-3 record. Brown was the 11th best running back with carries that resulted in 0 yards or negative plays, meaning he did really well. There wasn't so many plays that were 0 or negative yards. He was ranked 6th in conversion rates on 3rd and 4th down, and he ran for over 900 yards. And he really didn't start getting carries until the back end of the season. So you would imagine, if he played a 17-week span, you would imagine he'd be a 1,000-yard back. And he was one of their Joe Burrow's favorite targets on 3rd down. So he's also a receiving back as well. So Chase Brown is going to be a guy I think to watch out for, especially with depending on what they want to do in free agency after, they just franchise tag T. Higgins for another year. So it's really going to depend on what they do there with that. Another one to look out for, Bucky Irving. I mean, look at the year he had. He led all rookies, including Jaden Daniels, offensive rookie of the year, led all rookies in rushing yards. He led the NFL in missed tackle rate. So 36% of his touches resulted in missed tackles, and he led the NFL in that. Ran for over 1,000 yards. He's a good receiving back. He's another one to watch out for. As far as rookies go, one that's not talked about too much, and he's from SMU. I'm going to go with Rashard Smith. Not really good in pass blocking, but he's so versatile. He spent that time in Miami as a slot receiver, comes to SMU running back, and he's a good receiver in the flats as a running back. He's versatile. He's fast. He's explosive. He has great vision, and he's hard to bring down in open field. So he's another one I would watch out for.
I think those are some good picks. Rashard Smith, who is an underrated, lock for this draft. So I think that's a very good, analysis that you brought with Rashard Smith. A lot of people don't know about him at SMU, and he was a very fast back, but also, he honestly could have won them the game against the ACC championship against Clemson this past year. So it's interesting to see what he would do and, who he gets picked up by. Bucky Irving's a good choice as well. I think Bucky Irving can have a solid second year heading into 2025. Guys, if you're a fan of any of these teams, click the links down below in the description on YouTube down below. Bears, Vikings, Ravens, Eagles, whatever. What a Packers, every team that we just mentioned, guys, click the link below at Fandom Nation on YouTube. If you will have a comment below on the video, if you have any comments on the running backs, who can break out for these teams or the NFL in general, comment down below on X, Instagram, YouTube. Subscribe and follow on all platforms at Fandom Nation, and click the link below to get your apparel and fandom on for that. To conclude this episode, because we are almost out of time, our fan question. It's a very interesting fan question. I think it's a fun little fan question that we can talk about. A lot of stuff about it. Travis Kelce retiring, and he's the best tight end. He has the record. He overthrew the record for Tony Gonzalez. And then we got Rob Gronkowski coming back, right? Or supposedly coming back, but he's, not really. Just a bunch of rumors on that. So I just thought this would be an interesting fan question for everybody out there. And shout out to all the communities on YouTube, X, Instagram, and our fan communities in our boards in Denver, anywhere else for, on Facebook as well for our Fan Nation communities for all these fan questions and answering these fan questions and engaging with these questions. So shout out to you guys for answering them. This is going to be a good one for you guys as well. So our fan question to conclude is this: start, bench, and cut Travis Kelce, Rob Gronkowski, and Tony Gonzalez for tight ends. I am going to start Travis Kelce. This is controversial for you guys. Start Travis Kelce. Obviously, we're going to bench Tony Gonzalez or we're going to cut Rob Gronkowski. That is my take. I just think Tony Gonzalez is a little bit of a better tight end than Rob Gronkowski. That's just how I view it. Matt, the floor is yours to conclude with start, bench, and cut for our fan question.
I'm going to take a different approach than you. I'm going to start the man, the myth, the legend himself, Tony Gonzalez. Love the guy's work ethic. Love how focused he was in the game. And, I can't not, have anyone else start over. I'm going to take Tony Gonzalez. I'm going to start him. I'm going to bench Rob Gronkowski. Yeah, the guy's a cornball. He's a big meathead, but it was exciting to watch him play, and he fit in any offense. So I'm going to go with Rob Gronkowski. And I'm going to bench Travis Kelce just, to kind of make our guy, our insider, David, mad, just because he's our Chiefs insider. I just want to make him mad a little bit. But no, I just think he loses focus too much on the game and focuses on his extracurricular activities. And if he can get back to that, sure, maybe I'll bench him, but I'm gonna cut Travis Kelce.
So cut Travis Kelce. And that's a very quote unquote unpopular opinion for everybody out there, especially because, Travis Kelce's, broken the yards and everything, pretty much Tony Gonzalez's records. He's broken a lot of tight end records as well. But guess what? That's just your opinion, right? You have your own thoughts, right? So that's it. And that really just concludes our episode of Gridiron Unfiltered. If you want and have any disagreements on who we selected, comment down below on YouTube, on X, on Instagram, on the Fandom Nation communities, and shout out to you guys to comment and engage on these questions. If you want, and I don't know, man, football makes me hungry. I don't know about you, Matt, but it really does. Just click the link below on YouTube for burger and sausage beats. It really does get your game day going. Click the link down below. There's also our FDN Insider pages to get to know me and Matt more as your FDN Insiders, and as Matt as your AFC West Insider for Fandom Nation. Get to know us more by clicking the link down below on our Insider pages and knowing more about us here on Gridiron Unfiltered. And that just about does it, guys. He is Matt Williams, FDN Insider and AFC West Insider for Fandom Nation. I'm Joel Morris, FDN Insider, signing off. This is Gridiron Unfiltered, where the ultimate fandom meets the gridiron. We will see you next week for more Gridiron Unfiltered.